The cracks in the ceiling, our next Reddit user asks, am I crazy, or would you move out? She says, when my daughter moved into her first apartment, she noticed a crack in the ceiling above her bed. She assumed it was just a small crack that had been there for a while. Startled, she backed away from the crack and noticed that it seemed to be pulsing slightly. Then she heard a soft whispering coming through the gap in the ceiling. She couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like two people having a hushed conversation. But over the next few days, she noticed that it was slowly widening. But some people are like, oh, you're just making stuff up. Let me tell you something. I don't care who you are. If you ever hear breathing above your ceiling, you're not making that up. At first it was just a hairline fracture, but then it started to look like Then one night she was awoken by what sounded like small pebbles hitting her head. At first she thought maybe it was some kind of rain noise, like when the water is hitting the roof and it sounds like it's coming from inside your house. But then she realized it was coming from above her ceiling. When she came back with him, the whispering had stopped. The crack in the ceiling was still there, but now it was filled with hundreds of tiny black flakes. It looked like a giant gaping maw filled with teeth. She got out of bed to investigate and noticed that small black flakes were falling from the crack in the ceiling. Something dark and round was staring back at them from the crack. It looked like a huge eye staring directly at them. They screamed and backed away, tripping over each other in their haste to get out of the room. Of course, she was freaked out sitting there listening to these voices coming from the ceiling. So she left the room to call her boyfriend. And then they both saw it. They spent the night at her boyfriend's place, and she didn't want to go back to her apartment alone. The next day, though, the crack in the ceiling was gone. No matter how much she tried to convince herself that it was just a trick of the light, she could have sworn that she heard the faint sound of breathing coming from above her ceiling. And every single night she hears it. To this day, she still doesn't know if that was just a one-time thing or if she is going to be stuck, living with the sound of breathing above her head for the rest of her lease. Yeah, I think I'd be out of there so fast.